Something happened yesterday that the major networks spent maybe 3 minutes on. But the ripple effects are going to show up in your life at the pump, at the grocery store, in your heating bill for the next 9 months. So let's slow down and actually go through it piece by piece. Start with a body of water called the Strait of Hormuz. It sits between Iran and Oman, and it's not much wider than Los Angeles is long. But every fifth barrel of oil traded anywhere in the world passes through that narrow gap. Saudi crude, Iraqi crude, UAE crude. All of it goes through there. 6 weeks ago, February 28th, the United States and Israel launched a major military campaign against Iran. Iran's Supreme Leader Khamenei was killed in those opening strikes. Iran's military arm, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, shut the strait down. Not for Americans, for everyone. 100 ships a day used to pass through there. After the closure, roughly a dozen. The IRGC made sure ships got the message. 21 confirmed attacks on commercial vessels in the first 6 weeks. Fires on ships, crews abandoning vessels, marine insurers stopped writing policies, big shipping companies stopped sending ships. The result at your gas station was swift. Brent crude, the global oil price, went from under $75 a barrel to $97 in 6 weeks. California hit $5 a gallon in March, and that's early in the damage curve, not the end of it. Now, on top of all of that, Iran didn't just close the strait. They rewrote the rules of who controls it. For 50 years. Ships used an internationally recognized 2-lane shipping route that runs through Omani waters, established under international maritime law, used by every country on Earth. Iran declared that route off limits, then released their own replacement mapped new lanes that run through Iranian territorial waters. To make sure no one used the old lanes, Iran's deputy foreign minister went on British television and strongly implied those lanes may be mined. He didn't confirm it. He didn't have to. Uncertainty is enough to keep commercial ships away. What Iran built is pretty straightforward when you spell it out. Any ship moving oil out of Saudi Arabia, Iraq, or the UAE now has to pass through Iranian territorial waters. Once you're in their water, you're on their terms. They inspect, they approve, they charge. Iranian officials floated the fee up to $2 million per ship for guaranteed safe passage. More than 100 ships a day. At $2 million each, analysts put the annual take close to $100 billion. Money going straight to the IRGC, the exact organization that runs Iran's ballistic missile stockpile. While all that was being set up, some ships were already going along with it. Live tracking data shows Chinese-flagged tankers using Iran's new route right now hugging the Iranian coast, staying inside Iranian-controlled waters. China has 5 warships in the region, not one official word from Beijing about Iran's new map. That silence is a position. Now here's what the U.S. Navy was doing during all of this and why it matters. The U.S. carrier strike group around USS Abraham Lincoln shot down 101 incoming Iranian missiles and drones. That burns through a destroyer's weapons inventory faster than it can be restocked at sea, so the fleet pulled back to Diego Garcia, a U.S. base in the Indian Ocean, to reload. Iran knew exactly where those ships went. They fired 2 ballistic missiles at Diego Garcia trying to catch the fleet while it was stationary. Missed. The ships rearmed. And on April 11th, yesterday, USS Frankie Peterson and USS Michael Murphy sailed back into the Strait of Hormuz. First U.S. warships to enter that strait since the war began. CENTCOM called it a mine clearance mission. Admiral Brad Cooper said the U.S. was establishing a new passage and would share it with the maritime industry soon. The Michael Murphy did something else that was just as deliberate as the transit itself. It turned on its AIS transponder, the civilian vessel tracking signal. U.S. warships don't broadcast that in a war zone. They've been dark for 2 months. Turning it on after clearing the strait was a public announcement to the shipping world. The data is on the map. The ship is on the other side. Come through. The IRGC got on maritime radio while the ships were still in the strait. A civilian vessel recorded the exchange, and it ended up in the Wall Street Journal. Iran. This is the last warning. This is the last warning. America. Passage in accordance with international law. No challenge is intended. I intend to abide by our government's ceasefire. As Sarado. Iran then reportedly sent a drone in the direction of both destroyers. Iranian media says the ships turned around. CENTCOM says the transit was completed. The Michael Murphy's tracking signal showed up on the Arabian Gulf side. That's not possible unless the ship crossed. The data settles the question whatever Iran says. At the same time, all of this was happening on the water, and the timing here is not a coincidence. J.D. Vance was on a plane to Islamabad. Pakistan. The first face-to-face U.S.-Iran talk since 1979. Vance, Steve Witkoff, and Jared Kushner on the U.S. side. Foreign Minister Araghchi and Parliamentary Speaker Ghalibaf on the Iran side. Pakistan's military chief in the middle. They talked for 21 hours. This morning, Vance left without a deal. His words, Iran had rejected our final and best offer. The core issue, Iran would not commit to giving up nuclear weapons development. Iran's counterproposal was a list of demands: drop all sanctions, pay reparations, and hand Iran formal permanent authority over the Strait of Hormuz. That's the gap between the two sides, and it's a wide one. So, what does any of this mean in practical terms? 3 things need to happen before commercial shipping actually resumes through the original lanes. First, 3 U.S. littoral combat ships, the Canberra, the Tulsa, and the Santa Barbara, need to deploy their mine-sweeping drones and certify the international lane is clean. 6 drones between those 3 ships. Their entire purpose is to map the seafloor and find Iranian mines before a tanker does. Second, insurance companies need to come back without marine war risk coverage. Shipping companies legally cannot send crew into that area no matter what the military says. Third, and most importantly, a commercial vessel with a civilian crew has to actually go through and make it out the other side. That's when the market believes it. Not a destroyer, a tanker with 25 crew members and a fire hose. Until then, the supertankers keep rerouting. And here's how bad that rerouting already is. Dozens of very large crude carriers, each one big enough to fill over 3 million car tanks, sailed out of Asia empty, headed for the Persian Gulf. They were supposed to load Saudi and Iraqi crude and deliver it to Europe and the United States. April 11th was the day those ships should have arrived. They didn't arrive. They changed course weeks ago, turning south around the Cape of Good Hope, up the African coast and across the Atlantic toward American ports. For American oil producers, great, real demand, real revenue. For American consumers, the math doesn't work in your favor. A tanker delivering oil from Texas to South Korea takes 4 to 5 months round trip. The same trip from the Persian Gulf took 5 weeks. The same ships, far fewer deliveries per year. Less oil globally means higher prices globally, including at every pump in every state. Shipping economists put it roughly at this: every extra week a tanker spends at sea adds about 40 cents to the per-gallon price by the time it reaches the pump. Now put the recovery math on top of that. 1 day of disruption in a major shipping lane takes about a week to recover. 6 weeks of disruption, that's 40-plus weeks to unwind. Nearly 10 months, even if the strait fully reopens tomorrow. The Suez Canal, blocked for 6 days in 2021, took the shipping system 6 to 12 weeks to recover from. The Strait of Hormuz has been at this for 6 weeks with mines laid, drones deployed, and a government actively enforcing the closure. Anyone telling you that 2 destroyers entering the strait means the problem is solved, they're not reading the shipping data. There's one more layer to this that got almost no coverage. Iran also struck Saudi Arabia's east-west pipeline, the overland line that moves oil to the Red Sea, completely bypassing the Strait of Hormuz. That was Saudi Arabia's only viable alternative route when Hormuz was closed. Iran damaged it anyway. Iran also launched attacks on Kuwait and the UAE while a ceasefire was supposedly active. Map it out and what you see is systematic, not reactive. Every energy exit route from the Persian Gulf has been targeted. Hormuz, the Red Sea pipeline, the neighboring Gulf states, all of it. This is not a country defending itself. This is a country trying to control the energy output of an entire region permanently. So, where do things actually stand right now, the morning after 21 hours of failed talks? 2 U.S. destroyers are in the Persian Gulf. 3 mine-sweeping ships are standing by. Iran is still claiming the strait, the ceasefire is uncertain, and Vance is on a plane back to Washington. The number to track isn't in any headline. Go to marinetraffic.com, pull up the Persian Gulf region, look for whether those 3 U.S. combat ships are moving toward the strait entrance. Then look at the supertankers. Are any of them redirecting back toward the traditional Hormuz lane, the international route through Omani waters? Or are they still curving south away from the Gulf toward Africa and the Atlantic? That movement or absence of it is worth more than any statement from any government. If those tankers turn back toward Hormuz, prices start coming down over the following 6 months. If they don't, gas stays elevated. Grocery prices follow, and the shipping crisis will be making headlines well into the fall. 2 destroyers, a failed 21-hour negotiation, and somewhere in the Indian Ocean right now, hundreds of millions of barrels of oil are headed the wrong direction. Every mile they sail away from the Gulf is time added to the recovery. The military story had its moment yesterday. The diplomatic story had its moment this morning. The economic story, the one that shows up in your life, is just getting started. Watch the tankers, not the press conferences. Because when those ships turn back toward Hormuz, that's when you'll know this is actually over. Until then, it isn't. And the clock is running.